Wealth management is the art of making money with money. And as a wealth manager, what you do is you actually buy rights to revenue, which is the art of mailbox money. Because once you're in a space of wealth management, here's the reality. The assets become irrelevant, because the thing that you'll realize is that I do not want to operate assets. Why? Because it's extremely time consuming. As an asset manager, your job is to think about everything that could go wrong, that could go right, and everything that you need to be able to do in order to be able to grow.
Welcome to the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast, the ultimate destination for accredited investors and entrepreneurs seeking alternative wealth-building strategies. Discover how to fast-track your journey to wealth and time freedom by thinking outside the box. If you're ready to join the ranks of the Contrarian Capitalists and learn the most effective ways to reach your financial goals faster, you're in the right place. Let's get started with today's episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast.
Hey everyone, thank you again for tuning in to an episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast. I'm your host and your favorite silverback, Sylvania Harrod. And on today's episode, what we're going to talk about is asset management versus wealth management. So this was a topic that I did not know existed until I got started in this world. And so it's one of the things that I realize is extremely outside the box. And as I always do on this podcast, I give you the juice of the things so that you can make the choice of how you want to operate. Going forward, I will always be sharing different things to talk about asset manager, wealth manager. But before I can actually tell you about that, I have to educate you on the differences between the two. So buckle up. It's going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride. You might hit a little bit of turbulence, because what's going to happen is you've been trained inside of the world of asset management. Everything you've seen in your entire life has been basis of asset management. And so for some people, when I go through this, it takes a few episodes. And if I have to explain it numerous different times over time, I will do that, because that's part of the learning process. But my desire is to open your eyes so you can be able to see a different world. Because the reality is, if you made it this far and you're listening to this, you've craved something different. And that's the coolest part about today's day and age of what we can do. So I want you to think about, like there's going to be a circle. So you're going to have a circle, and you're going to have things below the circle and things above the circle. And so the circle is going to represent a particular asset. So we're going to call it a company, right? So if you're an operator and you run a company, there's a lot of things you have to think about. You're going to do, and we're just going to talk about like you own a building, right? So if you own a building, and real estate is pretty much easier for most people to understand, because we all have to live somewhere. So if you own a real estate investment firm, you hear a lot of people on the internet talking about like, hey, you go ahead and buy short-term rentals, or buy multifamily, buy single family homes, trailer parks, RV parks, yada, yada, yada. All assets is what they're driving. And so they teach you how to buy asset and how to become an asset manager. So what does that mean? That means that I'm worrying about everything beneath the asset. It is the employees, the debt service, the financing, the taxes, all of the things that happen to be associated with an asset, and managing that. And so there's this belief that, okay, if I acquire more assets, here's the thing that's going to end up happening. I'm going to grow rich. I can build assets to a certain point, and then I can sell those assets, and I can finally live the life that I want to live. Well, that's fine. That's in the world of asset management. So you're going to be critical about things. You're going to look at and pinch every single number, figure out things, have a healthy sense of paranoia, and want to operate from that space of assets. Well, remember the circle. That's everything below it. Everything above it is called wealth management. Wealth management is the art of making money with money. And as a wealth manager, what you do is you actually buy rights to revenue, which is the art of mailbox money. Because once you're in a space of wealth management, Here's the reality. The assets become irrelevant because the thing that you'll realize is that I do not want to operate assets. Why? Because it's extremely time consuming. As an asset manager, your job is to think about everything that could go wrong, that could go right, and everything that you need to be able to do in order to be able to grow. And if you look at the world, 99% of the world is focused on asset management. If you're a teacher in a school, the asset is the school. So the school happens to be there. So there's going to be different people inside of it. You've heard me use the chessboard analogy, right? The chessboard and the chess players is the world of asset management. And so if you work at a school or we talk about like the apartment building, right? That's what it is. You're going to be at a place and you're going to be like, all right, cool, I'm used to doing this. And so in order for me to protect my asset, I have to keep going and I'm going to get another multifamily property. And then I'm going to go ahead and take an arm and update the property and go through all those things. Well, think about the chess player and above, or the person who owns the building that the chess tournament's being operated in. That is the world of wealth management. Because what we care about in the world of wealth management is, okay, I'm going to diversify into having multiple assets so that I get to the place where all I'm doing is I'm going, for a person like me, all I care about is buying stabilized assets. So if I do anything that's ground up construction, it may be four out of five are going to be stabilized. One is shoot for the moon. 80-20 Pareto principle, right? So in the world of asset management, you're concerned about everything. So if you're doing that ground up construction project, you're just being like, oh, cool. Like I'm on to the next one. I'm on to the next one. Us as wealth managers need asset managers, because if I can't find stabilized, predictable assets, then how am I going to make money with money? If there's not consumers out there utilizing certain products, I cannot be able to buy the rights to revenue of other companies. So as a wealth manager, I actually need people to create companies. I need people to go ahead and have startups. And I need to teach you the narrative around founders. So look at this, for example. If you go ahead and you can think about it, like, why do you think the Forbes list exists? It exists because as a wealth manager, I need to inspire hope. I want you to look at people and realize 80% of them were self-made. And they go through that process and they're there. And so you find a guy like Elon Musk, comes from South Africa, doesn't come from anything, and he's able to build and become the richest man in the world that you know about. And I need you to have those stories, because one of two things are going to happen. For the very select few that hit lightning in the bottle, they're going to join that billionaire status. They're going to go through that process and they're going to grind away. Because guess what? I want those assets. I want to buy rights to revenue. I need them to be able to be there in that situation, because there's a homeostasis in the world of capitalism. So as you begin to peak and you begin to build your strategy, just know that wealth management is the art of making money with money. So I hope that makes sense for a little bit. Like, you just realize above the fold is 1%, below the fold is 99%. And then in the asset management class, there's a spectrum. You have people that are billionaires over here, and you have people that are just the everyday startup, just struggling right in the struggle bus. It's a spectrum of asset management, and that's fine. If you're in this arena and you're looking at those things and you recognize, guess what? I love asset management. Perfect. Previous episode, what I talked about is just knowing yourself. There's no rhyme or reason of who makes more or who makes less. I mean, in reality, asset managers can make a crap ton, as can wealth management. It's all possible. What matters is who you are. If you know that asset management is your thing and you love being boots on ground and you have this desire to have large amount of employees to be able to be there, perfect. Go do that if that's your jam. But if you're also in a space where you're just like, man, I have no desire to want to have 1,000 employees or anything like that, but I would love the ability to inspire and help other people, accomplish their dreams, go in the realm of wealth management. And wealth management is the world of building securities and funds and syndications. So helping people be able to go do that is how you can marry the two. If you're a creative who's not an operator, that's fine. Just be a creator, right? Design. You figure out how to get investment design and go through that process. Go through those things. But if you're a person that's like, I'm not really a creative. I like to grind. I like to run things. I like to do those things. Perfect. Work in the world of asset management. It's no different than if you look at, like, there's always some type of duo that happens there. For every Shaq, there's a Kobe. You know, like if you look at the world of Jobs, there's a Wozniak, Gates, Allen. You know, Captain America, Bucky Barnes. Those are the things that are available for you to go through that process and ensure that you're living the road of your own desires. So why would I go ahead and tell you all these things and start planting the seeds about asset versus wealth management? It's because if you're in the world of asset management, you need to make sure you have a wealth management partner that is there to ensure that you always have access to capital. And one of the things you can do is, one, you can go through and you can start investing in funds and syndication. Because the reality of funds and syndication, and you look at the standard limited partner, general partner structure, if you're used to working in the world of asset management, you're used to being in control, which means that you naturally will be like, oh, I want to be a GP on this project. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You actually want to be an LP, because an LP, you control your lane of what you do on a daily basis. Control those things. But in some element, it's a balance of having no control. It's like going on an airplane. If you're the kind of person that's like, I'm only going somewhere if I'm flying the plane, then cool. This stuff may not work for you. Just keep doing that. But for most of us, we get on a plane and somebody else flies it. You have no control over that. You happen to live on a planet where you don't control if it's going to be sunlight, daylight, or the weather. So humble yourself and hire someone or partner with someone that works in the world of wealth management for you. Because when you're on that side, they can identify and you can take a small percentage of your money and start buying rights to profit. Because eventually you're going to hit a phase where you may not want to be in asset management fully, and you just really want to have consistent mailbox money. That's what all billionaires do. You think that, why do you think they live so freely? It's because they operate in both. No matter who you're looking at, they have a whole wealth management arm that is out there for them, that is going ahead and buying boring stuff and investing in boring things. You don't believe me? Look up any Fortune 100 company and then type in the word venture after their name. You're going to find it. You're going to see it there, because that's what they do. They have a wealth management arm tied to their business. So if you think of the asset up here, all of a sudden, congratulations, you have two legs. You're not a lollipop, just sitting there, just in the asset management world. They balance themselves with a wealth management arm. That's what I do for my clients all day long. You come in, you have a business, you're an exceptional asset manager, you've built this thing from scratch. You're at a place where you're making $1 million plus a year. Perfect. Build a wealth management arm, because that's going to protect the house. That's your security blanket. That's, for a quarterback, a great tight end. You know, somebody that when things break down, boom, I can dump off the pass because the tight end happens to be there. Don't believe me? Ask why Tom Brady brought Gronk down to Tampa Bay with him. He knows about it. That's what you're going to have for yourself. And so if you're in a place where you're just like, hey, I work inside of asset management, perfect. Go get to a place. If you're listening to this podcast, you're an accredited investor, as what we talked about in the US, right? Like, you're already there. You've achieved a certain level of greatness. Well, start looking at wealth management based arms, because you can be exceptional on the asset management arm that you operate in, but partner with somebody that's going to allow and build a great wealth management strategy for you. So to land the plane, key thing is, if you, one, know yourself, know what happens to do there. If you're an exceptional operator and you want to be there, great, build a wealth management arm. If you're in a place where you're like an exceptional operator, but you're tired, go investigate and learn more about wealth management. I promise you, you'll realize this may be my jam, kind of like how I was, and be like, oh, it feels like I'm a fish back in water as soon as you find out, because this is everything you've been thinking about your entire life. And there's nothing better than, one, the day you were born, and two, the reason you found out why. So as always, you can find me on all social media platforms at Sylvania Harrod, my first name, last name. And as always, thank you for listening to this episode. Be grateful. There's so much amazing thing that happens in the world. If you don't believe it, here's the thing. Look at any trying time in the history of mankind, and art was made during all of them. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people ready to explore contrarian investment strategies. Stay connected with us on social media for more expert insights, behind-the-scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. You can find all the links in the show notes. Until next time, stay bold, think differently, and keep pursuing the legacy you deserve. Thanks for listening to the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast.